Welcome to Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's Tuesday, another Tuesday. Man, these Tuesdays are rolling in week by week and quick by quick. So, it's always good to do our podcast. Before we get into the podcast, get out and subscribe to the Beyond the Paranormal Podcast on YouTube and Facebook. From now on, I think we're just going to do YouTube and Facebook. And I think if we do any more live, like actually live investigations or anything like that, that's going to be either through Twitch or either through YouTube. Maybe we'll stream a little bit on our Facebook page. But we want to make it very simple and as easy as possible for folks to watch this stuff, because I know sometimes when you watch it on Facebook, it's a headache. It really is. But without further ado, I want to introduce my awesome co-host who chickened out last week.
I did not chicken out. Come on. Give me some slack. I know it might have seemed that way because I had a lot of trepidation about doing it to begin with.
Trepidation.
Seriously. Yes, but work calls, that sort of thing. But hello, creeps. I did not chicken out. Don't listen to the Bodfather over there.
They listen. They listen pretty good. So anyway, folks, we have comedian Jerry Paulley of HillBilly Horror Stories. HillBilly Horror Stories is hosted by Jerry and his wife Tracy. They touch on all things eerie, including true stories behind your favorite horror movies, rock and roll. That's my thing right there, rock and roll, metal, stuff like that, and the occult, unsolved mysteries, and creepy true crime. So serious enough for the true paranormal fan, but funny enough for the skeptics. And I like proving those skeptics wrong sometimes. So Jerry, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, brother. Thanks for you guys having me on.
Not a problem whatsoever. I'm going to turn it over to Critina because my voice is pretty much shot, but I am going to get some questions in here for you for sure. But Critina, go ahead.
Okay. So Jerry, can you give us a little bit of background on like how you got started, like doing a podcast about, the paranormal and all the true crime, creepy stuff that you're into?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to when I was about 13 years old. My parents bought a house in Fairdale, Kentucky, which is just a suburb of Louisville. And after about a year of living there, we started to have some paranormal things happen. And as so often the cases with these incidents, it corresponded with a death in the family and a lot of trauma going on with my mother. Her great-grandfather passed away. He was more like a father to her. He's the one that raised her. And she was devastated by this. It threw her into a deep state of depression.
Oh, wow.
4 months later, her great-grandmother passed away. So she lost both of the most, two of the most important people in her life from her youth in a matter of 4 months.
Oh, wow.
But what started all this off, like I said, after a year of living there with no incidents, we had the death of her grandfather. We are sitting around one night. She's on a prayer line, one of the, I think it was 700 Club or PTL, but it was one of those. And she's on the prayer line. I'm sitting beside her and I'm drawing on a sketch pad that I've got. And she's talking and going through a prayer, and we're watching it on television. Now, the TV is across the room from where we are. It's one of those old console TVs. As she's on this prayer line, there was, you'd have to really be an older or from the country to know what I'm talking about here. But they used to make these pin cushions that were in the shape of like sofas and love seats and chairs. And in that way, they were made out of fabric, and you could put your pins and stuff, and it would open up, like the seat of the chair would open up. You could put your thread and stuff. Well, we had one of those sitting on this television. And this thing was pretty weighted down because it had some metal house numbers where we just got to doing some work, and these metal house numbers are laying on top of this little chair. And I don't know why I remember this, but there was a bottle of Elmer's glue. And as she's talking to this prayer line, that thing pops up in the air at least 2 feet.
Oh my.
And it lands in the middle of the floor, and everything just scatters. Now, keep in mind, if it had been knocked off or jarred off by some kind of vibrations, it would have just fell off. That's not what happened. It popped up in the air, down on the ground, scatters. We kind of look at each other like, did we both just see that? And of course, we both knew we did. So she tells the people on the prayer line, I need to get off here. And she pretty much abruptly hangs up the phone. And we just looked amazed at each other. But that was the very first thing that happened. But that actually kicked off 5 years worth of on again, off again stuff in the house. So I would say, even though I really loved movies like The Exorcist and Halloween and stuff before that happened, which wasn't that long before that happened, because this all started happening in like 81. So, but movies, the scary movies and stuff was always my thing, but this is what really kicked off my fascination with the paranormal. As a matter of fact, as I was going into my freshman year, and my senior year, I actually did my year-ending senior report on Satanism and the occult. So it obviously stuck with me.
Oh,
I bet that was popular in a Kentucky school.
You know what's funny? I'll tell you the funny story about that. I rented a book. I was 18 years old or 17 years old. I rented a book, 17 years old, from the Louisville Public Library on Satanism. And they swear they never got that book back. And to this day, I'll be 54 in a couple months. To this day, I can't rent a book from the Louisville Free Public Library because they swear I didn't bring that book back.
Oh my God.
They're like, we knew we were never going to get that book back. Of course it was Satanists. Like I can imagine. Because we're
like, hey, once you sacrificed a few animals, you don't need the book anymore. I mean, come on, people. Why would I need it?
Yeah, Jerry brought it back and they're like, get rid of this. Take it.
That ended up in the dumpster. I can see that totally
happening. What's his hoof print on the back? I don't know.
Right? Folks, I apologize straight up. I'm just getting over a cold, and this cough will not leave me be. So I apologize if you see me hacking and coughing over here. I apologize. It happens. But you just made me think of something. And I don't mean this in a mean way, because I thought this a long time ago. I used to watch these psychics that used to come on TV. Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel somebody out in the crowd right now that's got a letter G. Well, of course, there's 15 million people out in the crowd. Of course, they've got a grandma with a G. No G. Okay, I feel like there's an Uncle Dave or Danny or no shit. You think? I mean,
my favorite is someone out there has just recently lost somebody close to them.
Oh God, there you go. That's the number one thing, man. I would like to see what I would say. Would you like to win the lottery? Yeah. And I'm not making fun of any of them like that, but there are some out there who are just after the money, and that's it. They're just not legit.
I saw a video earlier that just reminded, and I'm going on a tangent here. Speaking of the psychics and things like that you used to see on TV, I saw a thing earlier about the Mandela effect and how Publishers Clearinghouse was never endorsed by Ed McMahon. And it's all like this mass hallucination. And I was like, I know for sure it had to happen. So there's this whole big conspiracy theory about how Ed McMahon was never a part of Publishers Clearinghouse. Like I've seen multiple videos about it.
No, he was in, I think it was called America's Publishing Sweepstakes or something. Okay. It was a different company that did the same thing. He did do one, but it wasn't Publishers Clearinghouse. It was America's Publishing or something.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little more sane because I'm like, I remember specifically seeing him on TV, but he and Miss Cleo. Like Miss Cleo was my jam. Like I loved it when that lady would pop up on TV, so.
Kyla? No.
But you mentioned, growing up in a haunted house. What's funny is like I got dogs. They're nuts.
That's our mascots. That's our mascots. They're very upset when we don't pay attention to them.
I know, especially the Great Dane puppy. He's bananas anyway. He's like chewed up a cell phone, jumped through the front door, like he's all kinds of energy. But growing up in a haunted house, I had an experience of something similar to that. I grew up in I spent 2.5 years in a haunted house in Eastern Kentucky, in the Paintsville area. And that was how, like I kind of got, so some of the things that you were saying seem similar. Now, I didn't really see anything float up, but I did see full bodied apparitions and things like that. So it can really impact, like what you're drawn to and like start those questions out when you're younger. I could see that becoming a passion, and that's kind of where my interest came from too. So that's very similar. So like, as far as that goes, like have you done like investigations and things of that nature, or is it just more of like a, research from your desk like me kind of thing? Like where does your passion kind of lie in the paranormal now?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not real big in investigations. We've done some. We've
Mm.
spent the night in the Sally House out in Atchison, Kansas.
Oh,
Spent the
nice.
night in spent the night in Waverly. We've done a lot of different places. We spent the night a lot of places. We've done some. Our best investigation, as far as the most active, was at Whispers Estate up in Indiana. That just happened about a month and a half, 2 months ago. It was phenomenal. But
Really?
I don't get into the if I go on an investigation, if you invite me to an all-nighter, I'm going to show up at 7 or 8, and by midnight I'm gone, because that's about all I can take. It's not a negative towards anybody who can do it. I just don't have the patience, and I definitely can't sit around and listen to EVPs or for footage to try to find EVPs for 3-4 hours and just hope I hear something. Trust me, by 30 seconds in, I'm already thinking, what am I having for dinner? And I'm not listening to anything that's on there. Plus, I've got tinnitus in one of my ears. So me trying to hear EVPs, good luck. It's not going to happen. But I don't get into the investigation. It's not fun. I like a little bit of it, and then I get bored with it and just don't want to do it anymore.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. I did it for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and I took 10 plus years off of just for personal reasons and things I had that happened to me, But for you at Whispers Estate, man, when you said you had some very good stuff that happened, what exactly happened that really, piqued your interest, or what happened?
Well, there's actually a bunch of stuff that happened. Now, keep in mind, I'm one of these people. It doesn't matter which location I go into, nothing ever happens for me. And like I said, at the Sally House, I had to go back at one point because my wife left her glasses in there. And I went in and was able to go in by myself. They gave me the code. It was like a push button code on the door. That's all they got. And I was able to go in, and I spent probably 15 minutes in there just wandering around by myself. And it was daytime. I'll give it that. But nothing. I mean, but the group that was in there the night before, Chris Case's group out of Nebraska, they heard growling and everything else. And I wasn't a part of that session. I was there, but I was in another room with all this. But they refused to spend the night the next night, which they were supposed to. And they refused to. They were so freaked out. So, but yet I got nothing. Talbot Tavern in Bardstown, I get nothing. I've stayed there 4 or 5 times. People see stuff. My wife has seen stuff. My sister, my daughter, nothing. I don't sleep straight through. So it's just kind of funny that when we went to this place at Whispers, I wasn't expecting anything either. And the first little bit we did, nothing happened. But in Sally's room is set up with this queen size bed, stuffed animals and dolls all over the room, all over the bed, and it's got these poster columns, on the footboard.
Yeah.
They had these beach balls that are semi-flat, so they lay pretty good. They're not just going to roll off. And they were using the SLRS machine.
Yeah, SLS.
SLS. They were using that, so we could see the shape of someone all throughout the room. Well, within a matter of being there a few minutes, we had the lights off. They had the flashlights, the pin lights on a couple of the nightstands, one of them right next to the bed. And this thing was responding to questions, not like on occasion, like every time. Turn off if this, turn on to this, and it would do it. And then it was also knocking balls off of the top of the bed.
Oh, wow.
And we got some of this on video. We got the lights turning on and the ball falling off to the XLS, all on video. Then we go into another room, which was the little boy's room. I'm drawing a blank to his name. But the little boy had autism. He fell down the steps and died in the house.
Oh.
And while we're in his room, there was a door, and these are old. It's an old house. It's got heavy doors, and it's got this door leading to. It was a closet, but it's a big walk-in closet. You could use this as a nursery if this was your main bedroom. You could use that as a little nursery, and it's got all these little toys and stuff sitting there that were his toys. So they told us that on occasion that door would open up, and as we were there, it did. It just opened up slowly. Opens up. There was nobody anywhere around it.
So
well,
cool.
Later on, we didn't get video of that,
but
we got videos of a flashlight coming on there. And then later, one of the other people, including the owner, that I think his name's Dan, but They were all in this room. We had already left because I told you my rule. I'm out by 11. So they sent me this video that they're in there, and they caught the video just as the door started opening. So you missed the very beginning, but you see the rest of it opening. Well, then the owner goes over there and he shuts the door, and then he stomps up and down in front of it to show that it won't just come open on its own. It's not a bad latch or vibrations doing it. So, and I actually on my, I'll have to send you a link to it, but I posted that on my Facebook page, all the video stuff that we had from that night. I put it all in about a 10-minute video of nothing but like a greatest hits, if you will.
I'll definitely have to watch that. That sounds like super interesting.
But that's the cool part about that, though. You know, you go to those old buildings like that. Let me ask you this, Jerry. That door, was it like the old thick door?
Yes.
Heavy door. Okay, so we went to Octagon Hall, not me and Critina, but the group I used to have a very long time ago. We did a daytime tour. There was people that came, and Billy was like, "Hey, would you like to go on a tour with a paranormal team?" And it was just 3 of us, and we was like, "Yeah, let's go. We'll take the family and we'll go around." We got to the girl's room. Her name's Mary, of course. Her name's Mary, and she succumbed of her crap. She got set on. She got caught fire on embers.
She died from her injuries.
Yeah, she got. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting tongue tied. Sorry, but like 3 days later, she got set on fire by accident, all that stuff, and then she come to her injuries 3 days later after that, and she died in that room, her bedroom. And we was on the tour, and we were coming out of her room, and like you said, don't have a camera, never have a camera. This crap happens. Door shuts right in front of us, not once, but twice. And so we're looking like it, like you said, is there a trigger object? Is there something loose here? You know, jumping up and down, just anything. There was nothing whatsoever. And that's what frustrates me, because it's like the time you have your camera, you won't catch nothing. But the time you know, the time that you, well, I should say the time that you do, there's nothing happens. Nothing happens.
Or you don't see anything like me because you're like avoiding it like the plague because you were heavily traumatized as a kid experiencing all this weird stuff. So could be that too. Or it could be.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I was gonna say, it's odd that you mentioned Octagon Hall, because the story there is very similar to the story at Whisper Estate. Obviously, I think I might have said Sally's room earlier, but
Sally, I'm sorry. Yeah,
it was Rachel is the name of the young lady that there, but she died on Christmas and she was 6 or 7 years old, but her gown got too close to the Christmas tree that had real candles on it, and she succumbed to her injuries just the same. So very similar stories between her and the young lady at the Octagon Hall. Both young and both died from fire.
They were very young, and they got this creepy doll that's in her room that's about her height. And when I was in there, that doll just kept messing with me. It honestly looked like the doll's arm was moving, the eyes are moving. I was like, oh my God.
I don't do dolls. There's no dolls being
done. There's just not one doll. I mean, there's mannequins all over that place. So if you're not paying attention, you know where it's at, dude. I'm telling you, you're in for a trip.
No, but, I watched Doctor Who, the mannequin thing too. That ain't happening either. Doctor Who ruined me for that.
So let's get into this a little bit, man. You're a comedian. Let's what started that, and do you add any paranormal stuff into it? What do you actually do on that, man?
Well, let's say I first need to update my social media profiles a little bit better, because technically I've not done stand-up in about 8 years.
Okay.
And so I was a stand-up comedian for roughly 15 years, and I tried to get out of it several times. It's a lot of rat race, so to speak. It's a very wear and tear on your psyche, your body, all that. But don't let anybody kid you. If they're in entertainment in any way, shape, or form, they're doing it for the attention. You've got that kind of psyche where you like the crowd, you love the response, the immediate. That's what you need. I suffered from depression for years and years and years, and like most comedians, I think that's the case. That that was my justification for, I don't know, saying whatever the hell I wanted and getting away with it.
Yeah.
And, I did this for a while, but then I would get tired of everything that goes along with it. Loved the time on stage, hated all the other aspects, setting up the shows and trying to get people out to the shows and all that. It was very tough. So my wife and I actually moved to the Virgin Islands for a job opportunity back in 2014. And when I came back, we moved to a different city. And I'm like, you know what? This would be a good opportunity to get out, because most of the people here don't know me like I did when I was in Louisville, where I had 5,000 Facebook friends and a bunch of people would come out to the shows on a regular basis. Well, it'd be a little different here. So I kind of started doing a little bit. I did a few charity events and stuff like that, because that was something that was always near and dear to my heart. I'll never turn down a charity event. And, I decided, you know what? I'm out. I'm out for good this time. Because before I would get out, but then I'd always go back in 3 months later after I start missing that crowd reaction. So this time I'm out. Well, lo and behold, I started getting that itch again, but it wasn't as easy to get back in as it would have been. So I've discovered podcasts, and I listened to a paranormal podcast, a couple of paranormal concepts. Lore was my favorite. That was the first thing I listened to. And then a couple of other ones, Unexplained with Richard McLean Smith, loved that. But then I stumbled across Real Ghost Stories Online with Tony and Jenny Bruschi. They were the hosts back then, husband and wife. And it was different. It was a conversation. It was some comedy. And I thought, hey, this is something I think I could do, because I didn't think I had the writing ability or the voice to be able to do lore or something of that nature. But hey, this is just a husband and wife talking about stuff. I can do that.
Nice.
So you would think that I would immediately get my wife to do it with me, since that's what I heard. No, not at all. So what I did was I told her, I said, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. And she said, and told her what it was about. And she said, hey, I can do it with you. I said, no, slow down, Lucy. Slow down. I said, she's not interested in the paranormal. She don't like scary movies. Paranormal's not her thing. It just wasn't. But I had a guy that I used to work with. He was we used to have talks about it all the time, and he was very funny. And I said, you know what? If people could hear us, I think there would be an interest there.
Sure.
So I immediately bought all the wrong equipment, because I knew nothing about what I would need for a podcast. And so I didn't have a mixer, which is fine. You don't need a mixer, but you do if you're going to use two microphones in the same location with Audacity, which is the recording software I was using. And I bought two condenser mics, which I realized for my surroundings was not going to be very good, because it picks up everything. So I ended up with two mics that I couldn't use. And then when I did use them, they weren't very good because they were cheap.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, there were microphones that were cheaper than the ones I bought that were really good microphones. So people out there listening, you can start a podcast. If you've got a laptop or a tablet, you can start a podcast in your house with a $30 microphone and a stand, and you're basically good. $50, you're good to go. You don't need to spend a fortune, and it'll sound good. So I tell people that all the time. But anyway, so I get this equipment. I talk to my buddy Ricky. He comes on. Now we decided we're only going to do 20 minutes a week, because nobody wants to hear anything longer than 20 minutes. That was my mindset. As soon as we start doing it, put out 4 or 5 episodes, what do we keep hearing? Hey, well, you should go longer. So I had to up this where I was at the Buzzsprout was where I started. And I had like a $7 a week or a $7 a month plan. I had to jump that up to like $10 so I could do extra. So it's like, okay. Then I started our podcast with myself and Ricky. It was a very adult comedy. That's the kind of a comedy I did. And that's the way we did this. So we made fun of the places we were at, and we did stupid voices and a lot of language. And well, we did 8 episodes, Ricky and myself. Ricky had a very busy life, so he had a hard time making it to some of these recordings. And I'm extremely anal. I've ran major companies, multi-million-dollar companies my entire life, and that's the way I do everything. I don't half-ass anything. If I'm working in the yard, I'm working in the yard. And it's that everything's a competition. But Ricky wasn't as, I guess he really wasn't as fascinated and driven as I was on the actual show, which is okay. He had a family. He had 5 daughters, and I mean, he had a lot going on. So he couldn't make it one night. It was Sunday night. We recorded on Sunday. I put the episode out right afterwards. And we're driving. We're out in the country, me and my wife. And I get a call saying he's not going to be able to make it. Well, I don't miss episodes. I've had open heart surgery. We've had deaths in the family. We've had COVID. We don't miss an episode, period. That's just the way it is. And I tell my wife, I said, well, Ricky's not going to be able to make it. I guess this is your night. And it was our first rock and roll and the occult episode. First one we had done. And I had already done all the research on this one before Ricky and I was played up. So I did all the research. And she says, but I don't know anything about the story. And I'm like, you don't have to. You just listen and respond, because I've done all the research. So I was going to be presenting most of it anyway. So right. she sat in. People absolutely loved her. Ricky loved it. And Ricky came to me and said, you know what? Your wife needs to be the permanent host. And I said, no, this is our gig. It's our gig. And, and of course, when I did it with Tracy, it wasn't a blue type show as it was with Ricky and I. It wasn't as adult. And so I tell Ricky, this is our show. We're good. So Ricky comes back for episodes 10 and 11. And then he said, you know what? My heart's not in it. It's better with her. I know you're saying it's my gig, but she should be the permanent host. So episode 12, Tracy took over as permanent host. We did a second rock and roll the occult episode. And she's been the host now for 6 years, basically.
Way to go, Tracy. Dreams come true.
That's great.
And it's the smartest move I ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, we changed the show. We changed it to longer formats. We changed it to it's a more family-friendly show. And, people love the fact that she still never knows what the episode's about. So they get the honest reaction. They get her questions that they're thinking. So it works out perfect. And we would have never made it. We would have never made it to where we're at. We've got over 15 million downloads now. We're the biggest podcast in the state of Kentucky of any type. And like I said, we're getting ready to have our 6-year anniversary in August. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't made that switch and Tracy hadn't.
That's awesome. Congratulations, man. And I've been doing this. I did online radio for, I don't know, 8-9 years. And then I switched over doing podcasting. When you start doing podcasting and go from radio, it's like, oh man, it's a transition, but it's not that hard of a transition. But podcasting keeps you on your toes more than it actually does doing an online radio show. I mean, online radio show, you just throw your tracks up, it done. Podcast, you got to come with scripts, you got to come with everything you want to talk about. It's a whole new ball game. But I love it, man. And I kick myself every day for not getting into YouTube sooner than what I did. I've been into YouTube now for maybe 6 years. And I kick myself because there's so many more stuff that I need to put up there that I haven't yet. And now there's YouTube, TikTok. I know it's TikTok, but I call it TikTok. You've got Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all this other stuff. Man, I'm going, Jesus. I need to stream on 50 platforms just to get people to watch. I mean, it's ridiculous on how it is now. But for you to get that many people to interest in your podcast, man, congratulations, because it is a grind, and it takes that specific niche and those people that dig what you do to keep following and coming back. And same with us, man. A lot of our stuff, we just go with the flow. That's just what we do. I like it that way. We have fun with it. Like you said, you get the honest answer. You don't have to look at somebody and watch them in the camera go, no. You know what I'm saying?
And the good thing is we built a community. And,
exactly.
When we do these live events and we see a lot of the same faces, it doesn't matter which state we're in, we see a lot of the same faces. And the young lady that just commented up there, Tiffany Boots, she lives in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. We did a book signing in Cincinnati, Ohio area, and she drove from there by herself to the book signing and sat with Tracy and myself all day long. She was just at the live event that we did in Louisville in April, from Pittsburgh to Louisville. and she's been to several live events. And so I mean, but she's one of our favorites by far, but she's one of many that do that. For when we have a live event, we have an average of 13 states represented at that live event, no matter where it's at.
That's impressive.
That's very impressive, my friend. You got me, Jerry.
I saw you guys are also doing a cruise. Is that right, Jerry?
Yes, we're doing a cruise that starts. It takes off in September. Matter of fact, in 2 days, everybody has to have their final payment made. So, but yeah, it's we have 200 people signed up and 69 cabins rented for our cruise from Miami to the Bahamas.
That is awesome. So you get your booze and your cruise. So that's nice.
Yeah, the booze and the cruise.
and the booze.
Oh yes, we got it.
I had to get that in there. So Tiffany complimented again. Says, "I'll come as often as I can." That's good that you have support like that. That somebody will drive that far to check you guys out and hang out with you, man. That to me, if there's just one person comes up to us and say, "I like your podcast," or "I like how you guys what you do," that's worth it. That is all worth it right there.
I love how broad your all's topics are too. Like you get to jump around. It's not one thing that you're just going to get bored talking about.
Well, and we try to do different things. One of the things that I think makes a big difference is one, we look at our listeners as family. If you send us a message on social media, you're going to get an answer back. Not a week later, not 3 days. You're going to get an answer back most of the time within a couple of minutes, because we owe that to our listeners. We do this full time. We make a very good living doing this, and we wouldn't be able to do that without listeners. We will never be to the point where we have somebody handling our social media for us. I understand sometimes in big businesses, you got to do that. For us, I want to know anytime somebody responds to us, and I want to respond back in the proper way. I don't ever want it to be like just some kind of a pre-written out script that automatically, hey, thank you for writing it. I hate that crap. So we want our listeners to know that they mean the world to us. We would be zero places without them. We wouldn't make a penny without them. We wouldn't be able to do what we love without them. In our Patreon, for example, I guarantee, and I don't even need to research it. I guarantee we do more on our Patreon for our paid subscribers than anybody else does. We put out 6 mini episodes a week.
Wow.
5 to 10 minutes every week, and 2 full-size bonus episodes a month. So we put out 26 episodes every single month for our Patreons.
I've never heard of that, and I subscribe and am a patron to quite a few, and that's impressive. That is a lot of work.
See, go ahead, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Our regular episodes, we put out 6 episodes every week on our free line. So, I mean, even if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you're getting a ton of episodes.
Yeah, I've got so many questions about Patreon and so many other questions about other things I want to do. It's just, I know what I do wrong is I string myself so thin. I do all kinds of other podcasts. I need to just stick to one or two, and that's it. So that way I've got more time to focus on everything. But, I love it. Once it's in your blood, man, it's in your blood. You love it.
Let me tell you what we did, because this is a format that most people could follow if they want to.
Yeah.
We have our traditional show that comes out on Sunday nights. That's HillBilly Horror Stories. But I like to do other stuff as well. And instead of making it completely different podcasts, like we decided that eventually I wanted to do something like a lore. So we came out with Hillbilly Dead Time Stories, and we had a YouTube page. The first 39 episodes was strictly video and audio, but it was done in a way that you didn't need the video. So it worked for the podcast. You didn't have to see anything, but it was just all extra bonusy type stuff if you watch the video. I couldn't get anybody to watch the videos. We'd get 5,000 people listen to the podcast version in the first day, and it took us everything we could to get 100 people to watch the video. So after 39 episodes, we decided to scrap the video portion. They're still out there. They still got the page up, but we quit doing videos for it. But that was my attempt to do something more like lore. It's more scripted. It's more, a certain tone, and It's got the music in the background. And I think it's very well done. And the videos were well done. Just couldn't get anybody to watch them. And I wouldn't go spend 4 hours making a video for nobody to watch. It just didn't make sense. But so we do that episode. So on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, you get that episode. On Tuesdays, you get a preview of our Patreon shorts. That's the little short episodes we do. I throw up a couple of those. So if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you can at least see what you get. But when we do those, it's different than our other stuff. Sometimes we're just reading a list and making fun of it or whatever, like we're doing here. And then other times we'll read you about a haunted place. Or the other night we did, something completely off topic, and it was worst date stories. So we talked about that. So you'll get that on Tuesday. Wednesday, you get Dead Time Stories. On Thursdays, we do Eerie Encounters. These are all bonus episodes from us, but it's completely different. Eerie Encounters, if you send me your story of your paranormal encounter or any type of encounter, could be Sasquatch. It could just be somebody broke into your house and it scared the crap out of you. You send me that story, and I'm going to put 15, 20 minutes worth of these stories together with a little soft music in the background. So that's completely different than what we do. That's a Thursday episode. On Fridays, we play a classic episode from maybe 4 or 5 years ago that some people haven't heard.
There you go.
And then on Saturday, we started doing something. It's HillBilly Horror Stories presents Macabre Misfortunes. These stories can be about disasters and stuff that took place. So it's not even paranormal in some cases. We just covered the Cleveland Clinic had a big X-ray fire disaster back in 1929. We just covered that whole thing. So it's more of a tragedies that we cover in there. Sometimes they have some paranormal to them. Sometimes they don't, but they all have something tragic involved. So it could be a plane crash or a train crash, or we covered the Eastland disaster, the ship that overturned in Chicago. Now that one actually did have some paranormal attached, and we'll do that. But that's a shorter episode. It's usually about 15 minutes that we do on Saturdays. That's just like HillBilly Horror Stories, but it's not always paranormal related. And then on Sunday, we got the paranormal. But you're right, even on that, it's such a wide variety, because sometimes we'll do true crime, but it's got to be creepy true crime.
Sure.
If it doesn't have a creepy satanic cult aspect or something like that, we usually don't do it. So there's usually some kind of tie into it that we make work, like the West Memphis 3. I mean, obviously there really wasn't anything satanic in there, except that's kind of what they were railroaded on, was the fact that, hey, they were into satanic cult. It was during the satanic panic. Mm-hmm. So we made that work. But that's, but yeah, we like to have a variety. Sometimes you have just things that are, what the hell happened here? I don't know how this could have happened. And we'll do a story on that, but yeah, we like to have fun, but we pretty much stick to mostly paranormal on the Sunday night show.
And I feel like, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's what I've been wanting to do, and I've been thinking on that for this podcast. I know we do a lot of squatching. I call it Sasquatch, but squatching, we do a lot of stuff with that. We do a lot of, cryptid stuff, paranormal. But I'd like to add some other flavors into this, different locations of hauntings and things like that, and not just have guests, just, me and RhiAnna and Critina on here just talking about stuff like that, our things. But that's what I've been wanting to do. Before I get any further though, guys, if anybody's out there who has a question for Jerry or for us, please feel free to put that into the chat room and we will respond to you. So, and Jerry said he can see it, so he'll respond back to you as soon as possible. So there you go. Put it in there. Put it in there. Go ahead, Crit.
Yeah, I think my point though, John, was I wanted to do all these things, but most of these episodes during the week are only like 10 to 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that gives me ability, especially with doing this full time. So, I mean, it is my full-time job. So I don't have to work around a 70-hour work week like I used to before. So I have the time to do it. But I didn't want to start a new podcast for every one of those things. Why do that when I've already got a built-in audience? Let's see what they were. And actually, if I put out an episode on Wednesday of Dead Time Stories, it gets the same listens as what our Sunday episode do. So all of our episodes get about the same amount of listens. So the people obviously like it. And if one of them was really horrible in numbers where I could see it, then we just wouldn't do it anymore. But it's, but that's my point. You don't necessarily have to do something as long as what your regular show is. Do some 10 or 15 minute segments on topics you like and just make them bonuses and keep them on your channel, and you can do everything you want. And, and still able to maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, man, there's so many things I'd love to start again. Like I had a wrestling podcast at one point, and then I had my Bod's Mayhem Hour for my music that I do with interviews, and I've got Beyond the Paranormal podcast, and then I was doing another live on Friday. I was like, man, I'm stretching myself way too thin. Plus trying to work every day, and it's like, whoa, something's got to stop. I got to figure this out. But yeah, that's a possibility, man. I may end up doing some more things through Bod's Mayhem Hour and just say like, it's a part of Bod's Mayhem Hour, whatever. But we'll see. But I do have some other thoughts coming up for sure.
But can I touch base on one other thing?
Yeah.
One of the things that we're big on, this is something that is a passion of Tracy's and mine, is first of all our military and our civil servants. We like to thank all of our military and civil servants every single show because they give us the ability to be free. They protect us every single day. It's nice to know I can pick up the phone and call 911 and somebody come out to help me, whether it be a house break-in or a fire, or whether it be an ambulance ride needed. We live in a great country, and I like to acknowledge that. Then the other thing is we all go through periods of time where we suffer from mental health breakdowns. Yep. And, we have a 5,500 private group on Facebook, HillBilly Horror Stories group. And we completely turned that into a support group about 3 years ago. So that's a place, it's a safe place for somebody who needs support, that they can come and just join, and they can say, hey, I'm struggling right now mentally. This group is full of people all over the world. So it doesn't matter if you come on at 2:00 in the morning, your time, and say, hey, I really need to talk to somebody. You're going to get 15 or 20, 25 responses in a matter of 5 minutes from all over the world, because there's always somebody up paying attention in that group. So if somebody's in that situation, I don't care if you listen to our show and never listen to our show. If you feel like you need support and you don't feel like you have anybody else, I can give you a group of about 5,500 people that will give you constant support. So,
and that's a really beautiful thing. That is beautiful. I actually, in my day job, or my round the clock job, I should say, I'm a social worker. So like building those spaces and that community for folks to have a place where they can go to safely and have conversations that might not be well received within their families or, in their professional circles. Like that's a really beautiful and sacred thing. So I'm glad that you guys offer that up. And
it's a zero tolerance group too. So it's clear when you sign on to ask for membership, it asks you the name of the dog, which is our dog Ninja, is our mascot as well. So everybody who listens knows Ninja. But the last thing it says is, this is a support group. Do you agree not to be critical? Do you agree that people are going to, they're going to make some comments, and if that's not your cup of tea, you don't want to be in the group. And we have 9 moderators in the group. And if somebody makes a comment that's offhanded, it's zero tolerance. You're out. We can't have that. And we don't have that problem. I mean, I can't tell you the last time that we've had a complaint about a negative comment or anything like that. So it is a safe place.
I do got to ask this though, man. Is there a location on your bucket list that you want to go and do an investigation at possibly? Is there one for you? Maybe
just check it out.
Yeah. To be honest with you, my bucket list is so full, it will never get used up. I mean, because if we just talk about this country by itself, Tombstone is definitely someplace that I want to go. I still want to go to Winchester Mystery House. I want to go to the Whaley House. The the Queen Mary. I don't know where Queen Anne came from. I'm thinking of table legs. I'm thinking I want to go to the Queen Mary. And that's just out West Coast. And then you stick over here. I still want to go to the Lizzie Borden house. I want to go to the Conjuring house. So, I mean, my list is so big. Then you start jumping overseas. I mean, Lep Castle is
Oh
one
yeah.
Tower of London. I mean, there's just so many places that the Hellfire Club in Dublin. There are so many places. Ancient Ram Inn is definitely,
Oh yeah,
that
for
would
sure.
probably be my number one European location. It would probably be Ancient Ram Inn. So yeah, I mean, none of them are any more important than the other. I want to go to all of them.
So let me ask you this too: what was your best rock and roll horror uh, song or whatever that you guys talked about? Because that interests me too about the rock and roll horror side of this. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I think the one that surprises most people, we broke down Stairway to Heaven and played a lot of the backwards played stuff and kind of told you what it was supposed to say and all that. But I think what surprised people the most was Hotel California.
Really?
Because yeah, if you during the time that the Eagles shot the album cover for Hotel California, if you ever, and you can look this up online and see pictures if you don't have the actual album cover, but when you flip it open on the inside, it's like the inside lobby of a hotel and everything. Well, up in the right hand side in the darkness, there is Anton LaVey standing there.
Oh,
And
oh,
if you go and listen to the words, and I don't remember all of it right off the bat, but the first Church of Satan, started by Anton LaVey, was started in an old hotel,
oh.
and it was converted, I think, in 1969, and that's why when you hear them saying the song, we haven't sold that spirit here since 1969, because
Oh,
that, so they've got that, and then you've got well, you can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave.
exactly.
And Anton LaVey in his first his book of what was it, Satanic Bible that he put out, it says stuff in there like constantly saying programmed to receive, and in the song Hotel California, at one point Don Henley says you are programmed to receive. So he takes the terms right out of the Satanic Bible. Parts where he says you stab it with a steely knife, but they just can't kill the beast.
Yeah.
There's so many now. So when you actually go back and look at all the words and you think about it from a standpoint of the dates used, the words used, you know, now some people will go back and say, I think Don Henley himself even said that it was about being a rock star. It was about being consumed by everything from the road, the rock and roll lifestyle, the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll. And it was all metaphors for that. But the reality of it is, okay, why do you have Anton LaVey in your picture up on the,
Right.
There you go.
That was their PR team working overtime there. Like, we don't want that to be considered in that sect, you know.
Somebody was telling me, and I don't know how true this is, and I might have seen this on a documentary. Janis Joplin had committed suicide in a hotel out in California, and they was trying to like put that together with Hotel California. I was like, that makes no sense at all because there's no way. That's not even, in my opinion, I don't think that's not even remotely close tied together as one. But she's out there at I cannot think of the hotel name, but they say that hotel is very haunted too, out in California. So, yeah, there's some places I like to check out too in California. But Hotel California, man, that's a good song, regardless if it's satanic or not. It's still a great song. Oh man, but yeah, it's so wild to hear like different stories of rock and roll. I mean, I'm a big metal guy, I'm a big heavy metal guy and stuff. But they're so, like you said, lyrics, man. You go back and you read these lyrics, and there's so many things that's tied to things that people just overlook. And you look at their album covers and inside, like the layouts and stuff, people miss stuff, those little Easter eggs. And there's a lot of people back in the day, and Tom Levine was the man. You saw a lot of people have him in their stuff and quotes that he said. So, you know, it's
him and Crowley.
yes. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Mr. Crowley, boom, boom, boom. Yes, and they recorded. I don't know which album it was, but they recorded one of Black Sabbath's albums in Crowley's castle that he had, and it was very haunted.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So, one of the other my favorite music stories, and we did a whole episode on Aleister Crowley, and in that episode we talked about Boleskine House. that's the one that Jimmy Page eventually bought. It burnt down. It's just been recently redone. I think
Yes, sir.
it's available again now, but that's the one Jimmy Page used to own. So we had used that opportunity to talk about the Zeppelin curse. And like I said, there were so many things that happened with Zeppelin that people were like, hey, did they make a pact with the devil? And John Paul Jones was one that they say didn't sign the pact, and therefore, which is actually pretty good. If you can still get all the fame and fortune of Zeppelin and not have to sign the pact with the devil, that's pretty good, I would say. Let everybody else take the grunt of the burden. But there were so many things that happened between Page and John Bonham's death, and Robert Plant lost his 5-year-old son, Carrick. And then they had a real bad accident that put him and his wife were injured real bad, and he couldn't even tour for almost a year because of that. And all this was blamed on what they call the Zeppelin curse. And Jimmy Page was infatuated with Aleister Crowley. He owned an occult shop that had some of his original robes and all that stuff in it. And he owned his house, Boleskine House, where Aleister Crowley supposedly did a ritual that had some demons trapped in it. So, yeah, that's another one of my favorite stories.
There's some wild stuff out there, man. They are some wild stuff out there that some of these musicians do, but you don't know whether it's actually legit or if it's actually just all lore. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
I do know about the Zeppelin deal. That I read a lot about that stuff. And hey, Dover Paratech. Hey, man, how you doing? Welcome to this podcast. Glad you stopped in. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how folks take this. I mean, they take it way far sometimes, too far. But I know they got niches, but man, I don't know. I would like to go to see Crowley's mansion. I would like to see that, though. I definitely would. I'd like to go to it. I ain't gonna lie.
I'll just Zoom with you. You can go and I'll Zoom in, okay?
Yeah, that's what she
I'm not walking in. It's not happening, so.
like everywhere I go, she's like, well, you can just take a GoPro or whatever, or just channel me.
Right.
No, it's not it.
I've got a bubble.
Yeah, but see, his place, though, is right on Loch Ness, if I remember correctly. So you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Oh, Nessie.
Now, Ness, I would totally be down for that. But you can do the.
You gotta come in. You gotta come in, Crit. You can't go to the lake. And you come in.
Be the lady of the lake. And
No.
Yeah, well, I'll do the lady of the lake. That's what we'll do.
Jerry, my friend, before we let you go, thank you so much for being on here. This has been awesome, and we'll definitely have you back on here for sure. But I gotta know, man, where did you get that horror poster back there of Mount Horrormoors, I should say? It's got Jason, and that is awesome, man.
I tell you, if you knew half of what I have, I'm gonna give you a little peek of what's in this room.
Oh, I'm a big.
Oh, we get to see behind the scenes.
Oh, I'm a big horror fan. Oh, wow.
This is all of our logos, and my little ghost lamp. That's actually it's got a casket.
That's awesome.
I love that.
And then we've got my Edgar Allan Poe stuff and some Harry Potter stuff.
I see
everything in here. Yeah. And then we have my 6-foot clown.
Oh, nice.
That little, there's a silver bedpan down there that came from Waverly Hills.
Somebody used that. No.
It's been cleaned, I'm pretty sure. And of course, up there, we've got the nun, some other logos and stuff that fans have done for us.
Oh, I like that. What's that on the door, though, man? Is that
It's a shower curtain.
Oh, that's bad, dude. That's awesome.
And then, like I said, got a bunch of exorcist stuff in here.
I see that. That's cool.
There's some creepy dolls for you there, Critin.
Oh, yeah, I just love them so much. Can't get enough. I love those Ouija board pillows, though. Those are pretty spiffy.
These over there is an actual Cabin in the Woods poster signed by Fran Kranz. He's a big fan of the show.
Oh, nice, dude.
And he sent that to us. That's our back curtain.
Oh my gosh.
And there's my miniature Robert the Doll with my picture with the actual Robert the Doll next to it.
Oh,
that's an actual. You see on the end over here, on the other end, there's an actual Annabelle case replica with Annabelle inside.
I do see that.
Tiffany Boots. Tiffany Boots brought that for us at our anniversary show.
No.
And then there's all this stuff here is all haunted stuff or what have you. There's a cow's head that a gentleman named Brett brought us when we did our show in Dallas last year. But and then of course our rug.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
I've got a
So
mule
that's,
head
that's
with
a-
my fish tank. That's funny.
That's
With my hands.
So that's where we do all our recording from. So we're surrounded by stuff that keeps us in the mood, so to speak.
Crit draws me a bunch of art, like horror art. She did Jason for Christmas. Jason with a Santa hat on, which is cool. She did a Michael Myers one, I think, here not long ago. Did you, for my birthday? I think.
Yeah, I love to send like personal things like that I've drawn myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to keep it fresh like that. And I just put away my newest Jason painting. It's in my closet. It's
But I still didn't answer your question though. That poster back there actually came from another listener / podcaster, James Barnes, and he actually brought that to us the same day that Tiffany brought us the Annabelle replica.
Oh, cool.
I want me one of those posters, man. That'll slap on my wall. I've got so much stuff autographed on my wall. I need to make some change. I need to rearrange stuff, liven it up a little bit, get some color in here.
There you go.
Man, thank you so much, Jerry, for being on the show. This has been awesome, and like I said before, we'll get you back on here again. But for the folks who are listening and want to check out HillBilly Horror Stories and everything you got going on with it, how can they do that, sir?
No, we got enough listeners. We don't need any more, but I appreciate it. No, I'm just kidding.
Come to Beyond the Paranormal podcast, folks, and subscribe to us. We'll take you. We need people.
Anywhere you've listened to podcasts, HillBilly Horror Stories, you'll find us out. All the episodes that we do throughout the week. Just know that every day you click on, you're going to get something a little bit different.
That's great. RhiAnna couldn't make it this evening, but hey, she's a trooper because last Saturday we were all over the place for, I always say this name wrong, the old hospital on College Hill.
You got it.
Which we still got to talk about that in the next couple of weeks and review evidence and stuff like that. But man, I'm telling you what, folks, I will never, ever, ever, ever again tell a spirit to, hey, use my energy, go right ahead, because I'll never do that again. Never, ever.
If I'd have been there, I'd have been just kissing you real fast.
And for those out there listening, HillBilly Horror Stories, August 20th, we'll be having our 6th anniversary show with a tour at the old hospital on College Hill in Williamson, Virginia.
Whoa!
When is this again?
August 20th. It's a daytime show. It's like 1 to 4 on that Saturday, but it's just going to be us, a group called Serial Spirits out of West Virginia. It's Annie Weebs. Y'all probably know who Annie is. Mm-hmm. But Andy and Brenda Shea, her significant other, are going to do a live version of their podcast. We're going to do ours, and then everybody gets an hour tour.
Oh, cool.
And Beyond the Paranormal podcast wasn't invited. You see how it is now, Jerry.
Well, you're invited now. I just introduced it on your show.
Everybody can come.
I'm just joking, man. But yeah, folks, get out and check that place out. It's a cool place. We definitely had some things go on, personal experiences, but I just can't let everything out of the bag yet. I want to tell everybody, but I just can't. But be sure to tune in and I'll post it on Beyond the Paranormal Podcast Facebook page. That way you guys and gals will know. And trust me, we got some good stuff. But again, Jerry, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Folks, we'll see you next Tuesday. And be sure to subscribe to Beyond the Paranormal Podcast YouTube and our Facebook page. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.